bread house actually mean to the rest of the world? What does a beautiful bread house nestled in the middle of Copenhagen tell us about family ties, about um, father daughter relationships, about familial ties? Well, if it is Joachim Trier's sentimental value, it actually becomes a universal study of intergenerational trauma, grief, and how our own artistic sensibilities may prepare us for the larger fights out there when it comes to mental health and our um, own ways of dealing with the more difficult and prickly aspects of lives. But most importantly, it creates a channel, a most tangible channel for dealing with these issues on a cellular and intimate level. Now, these individuals in the film consist of a daughter who is a celebrated theater actress, a stage actress of great repute, but she's also youthful and at the same time uh, often experiences stage fright, um, grapples with a fight and flight response to many situations in her life. We also deal with a younger sister who is a historian who goes back to uh, bringing to the table her family's beleaguered history, which dates back to the timeline of the Nazi regime, which impacted a lot of her family members. And most importantly, it also consists of a father who's a celebrated filmmaker who left home, uh, who abandoned his familial responsibilities but cannot escape the emptiness within himself, especially because he has seen his own mother take her life when he was just a small boy. So all these strands get intertwined with um, the revelations of a young actress who meets this elderly filmmaker at a film festival, who yearns to break free of the commercial rot that has become the de rigueur sort of mode in which she's operating as a successful actress back in the United States. And here we see that this filmmaker who is distanced from his own daughters and is also trying to process grief and trauma with great exigency. This man becomes a sort of father figure to this young, talented, promising actress. He offers her the role of his own mother in a way in a film that he's scripting after many decades of work. And it's about this young actress reckoning with guilt about portraying a part in a language and in a milieu that she does not understand, although she's very sincere and earnest about her artistic pursuits per se. It is about mental health. It is about the clawing passage of time, about two sisters who always hold each other up when grief and trauma becomes unbearable to the point of numbness. It is about their artistic credibilities, their artistic points of stagnation, and how the cinematic canvas and the personal arena sort of coalesce together to present us with some beautiful scenes full of vulnerability and warmth. Vulnerability is the operative term here, and vulnerability is so short in currency in our current world that a film like Sentimental Value, particularly pointing towards the restrained use of sentiments and also points where it overflows into our daily lives, is something to celebrate in all respects. Now, moving from Sentimental Value, we move towards Spanish author Oliver Lake's Sirat, a movie set in the deserts of Tunisia, where we see that on the outside, through radio broadcasts and the passage of people along the roads and railway tracks, there is the impact of war which has registered itself. Without announcing its intent and its larger thematic strokes, Sirat also deals with the greater wars that we fight on a personal level every day. It is a story which is fixated on the inner journey of a middle aged father who, with his young son in tow, travels to the heart of the desert searching for a missing daughter. His distress, a deep grief and trauma writ large, even though he wrangles for the truth from the people gathered there. The people, a motley group of individuals, especially those who aid the father and son duo, uh, first, first of all unwillingly, but then by exercising their sense of humanity and compassion. These are individuals who, during the course of the film, unfurl layers of trauma, especially some quadriplegic individuals who may have been involved in wars um, by being military men, perhaps. It also concerns the younger members and how this motley group rallies around themselves as makeshift family and extends that same warmth to the father and son duo, even when their van ride through the desert in search of discovery for this missing daughter and also towards um, treacherous landscapes makes them realize that mortality is a loaded entity indeed, and that life and death sometimes can actually come at the most inopportune moments. It is about the power of rave music to drive you, especially the kind of electronic music which is used here, is something which is primal but also drone like. It seems to come from a guttural womb of Mother Earth, and whether it's the desert vistas, whether it's the reckoning with the history of war, whether it's the placement of mines underground in the vast, unending panoramas of the desert, about the grief of a father who does not know anything about her daughter who has gone missing for several months, and then eventually also reckons with a greater loss regarding his son, to these forces of grief and trauma which inform an epic, fable like uh, unraveling for Sirat in general. So it is a journey where there is no set destination and life and death hangs precariously while myth and realities blur and converge and collide into each other in a heady display of these people, their decisions to look out for each other, as also the landscape which defines their saga. But once again, like Sentimental Value, it is a work which prizes vulnerability, compassion, and empathy above the apathetic leanings which you may go uh, with thinking about this particular work. Another work which deals with incoming grief and the tides of mourning, ill health, terminal illness, and broken familial ties is Kate Winslet's Goodbye June, which is directed by her, stars her in a stellar cast, and is also written by her and her young son. Now, Kate Winslet, Andrea Riseborough to Nicolette play siblings, varied in temperaments and moods, who reunite along with their brother to look after uh, the matriarch, played by Dame Helen Mirren's last earthly passage while she is in hospital dealing with the fallout of her cancer diagnosis from years ago. Once again, we have not just the stellar cast, which also comprises of Timothy Spall as a patriarch of the family, but we deal with very, very naturally observed vignettes of behaviors, whether it's two sisters who have been estranged from each other for years on end because the younger one still harbors resentment against the older sister who she looked up to as an idol, a hero, and has not reconciled with, because she still feels the pang of separation from someone who she thought was a whole world, to a father who is drowning in his own ill health in his advanced age, alcoholism, but at the same time is willing to sing his wife's favorite song, Georgia on My Mind by Ray Charles, um, dedicating their life together even when he knows that her death is just round the corner. To the son who has looked after the mother and father, both parents, as the primary caretaker, and sort of harbors internalized grief for what is to come when the mother goes to the other realm, passes away. To the children navigating this with optimism in the ways that they can and they know best. Um, from the final staging of a nativity play to the mother writing a letter addressed to her daughter and also to the grandchildren, to the shifts of night and daylight, the shifts in the mother's health, the shifts in the personal relationships among them all. Goodbye June actually merits your viewing because it is so sincerely made and is so universally pegged when it comes to the emotions, the little moments of laughter, smiles, companionship, and the tenacity and tangible nature of relationships, which navigate a whole gamut from anger, disbelief, to a final reckoning when you are together at a family table, or even when you're gathered together in a hospital room waiting for that final goodbye. So watch these three films, Sirat, Sentimental Value, and Goodbye June, in order to get a better understanding about how vulnerability and warmth permeates all these works in their own individual and collective ways.